Welcome back to an amazing episode of the FitBiz Journey podcast. Your host, Parida Patel, Lizzie Nieri, Daniel Nieri. So the reason why we're here today is because an amazing Monday coming up to you, and we want to start out with this amazing episode that we talk about all the time, that your net worth is your network, or you should say your network is your net worth. And the reason why I'm saying this is because everybody asks or say that whoever you hang out with, you actually become that person. So it makes sense to join some sort of a group where you hang out with people who are just like you, high performers or a little bit higher than you are, so they bring you up and you're not bringing them down. They have that positive effect. So there is also this rule that you should spend X amount of time in a high performing group that are, how do you say that? Above you, right, technically. And then also spend time in a group where you are basically way higher than them, so you can give back and bring them up to your level. So you getting and giving, basically that's the whole goal. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because we have joined this new group, right? We were just there last week in Las Vegas, and before we went there actually, I didn't know what was missing from our life. I surrounded myself with lots of horses, not Parida, not Lizzie, I'm talking about right here. See, I have these horses, every single studio has one. It's in my office, have multiple. And then now I just realized the thing that was missing is unicorns. And when we signed up, they even sent us a unicorn. That is actually feels really good when you're stressed. But I wanted to make sure that we create our horse to become a unicorn. So right now, in case you're listening, I'm putting on a unicorn on top of our horsey statue. So now it became a unicorn, right?
Yes.
Because the reason I'm saying this is because life is just better with miracles and unicorns. Do you agree, Parida?
100%.
So the reason why we are here again, to make a fight for that saying, is that your network is your net worth, because we believe it's true, and we want to show you that why you should join. And also on this episode, just to make sure you guys know this, but we're going to talk about time management, hiring, delegating, and so many things, what we have learned last weekend on this Time Ninja course, which by the way, this is the notebook that we walked away from with, but it gave us loads of material, and we have learned a lot. And I think there were like 30 other people just like us, gym owners there, and we learned from each other, so all I can say is that it's a huge advantage to be in a group like that. So shall we just go over what was the weekend like, so people can decide if they should join a group like this?
Absolutely. Weekend consisted of a couple days. Not only did we have fun, but we learned a lot of information. He's got tons of notes, I've got tons of notes, and we're already starting to implement things at Art For You Fitness. So what's great about that is that anything that we learn immediately, we can just start seeing how it changes our aspect of the business. So day one was actually goal setting, which we had actually done in an episode previously, but it was really great to do it again and do it with other people just like us. And
thank you guys for all the feedback. We got actually lots of messages, 5-star ratings, and comments that they loved that episode about the goal setting. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go back. I think it's 2-3 episodes before this one or something like that. Yeah. But it's about goal settings. You can search for it. Maybe we link it into the comments below. But so many people replied back that's what they needed. Of course, it was January 1st, first week of January, so everybody needed it. But yeah. It was a great hit. So thank you for all the feedback.
Yeah. And while we've had our own process when it comes to goal setting, it was really cool to see another business and another group of high developers and how they do their goal setting. What was cool though is that we actually learned that it was very similar for us. Maybe just a couple aspects were different, and the cadence at which they do it, which was, I believe they said every 3 months they do something like that, right? Where they're kind of reassessing every quarter, yeah. So that was cool too. So that was day one. If you want to add anything to that.
Yeah. So I wanted to. The day one we did goal settings and in Las Vegas, by the way. So they put it together in a mansion, and that's where we stayed. So everybody had fun and hang out with basically industry leaders. And then on day one when we did the goal settings, we also had, and when you're in these groups, guys, by the way, you also have access to amazing people. Like we had a guest come in that we can basically drill with questions, which we did, and she gave us amazing feedback, things that we didn't even know, especially about HR, that is probably at your size where you're in business, and if you're making your first hiring, then you should definitely look up some HR, and maybe what we shared today will save you bankruptcy or whatever it is, or firing or a huge lawsuit. Yeah, because what she shared was amazing. But the person that came in was actually the main HR person for 4 seasons, and I think she's been there for 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And anyway, she was amazing. She gave us so much information. I walked away with a lot of notes.
Yeah.
But so number one that I wanted to call out on everybody is the time auditing, because that's what we started with. Well, number one was obviously the goals, because without goals, I mean, you don't know where you're heading, where you're going, and how much time you need to spend on if you don't know what you want to accomplish. So wanted to make sure that you guys know and on the same page that first you know your goals, so very important, and then you go into the time management part of it, because now you can break it down how much time it will take to actually get where you want to be.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
One little piece of the goals day, they were talking about how people tend to overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, right?
Yes.
And underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. So for us, it was, great to start thinking like, okay, 5 years ahead, what is actually possible? What is realistic? Break that down into 1 year, similar to how we do our goal setting. And then in 1 year, you're like, okay, all these things are actually very much possible, and this is how it's going to take me to that 5-year piece. And that ties into the time management thing as well, because most people tend to overestimate how much time it takes for them to get things done, and then they always feel like they're playing catch up because they can never actually get anything done. So the time audit was important because we can actually understand how much time are we putting into X, Y, and Z, so we know, well, is that where we should be putting our time? How should we adjust? So the goals and the time audit were both very important together. So go ahead.
So guys, pull out a piece of paper, or if you're driving, do this later, but make sure you bookmark this right here, this part, because what would be cool if you could do this as well, just so you see where you stand and where you are. And if you have read the book called Clockwork, that is very similar than what Mark Fisher and Michael Keeler, basically the Unicorn Society leaders, and of course the leaders of Mark Fisher Fitness and founders as well, have created for us this weekend. But Clockwork, if you want to just if you already read it, great. If you have not read Clockwork, then you need to do that. I will tell you in a minute why. But when you have the piece of paper, so just like this, what would be great to start out with is just right now is like a simple time audit. And the way you do that is you just put down the piece of paper and try to be as best as you can. But the best way to do this, not to think back and guesstimate your time, is get a piece of paper that we also do at the whole company. You pull out this paper, and for 2 days straight, you write down every single thing, like everything that happened to you. For example, going to the bathroom, sleeping, how many hours, how many minutes, eating out, lunch, driving, commuting, watching Netflix, reading book, making notes, making calls, sales, employee interruptions, so many things. So every single thing that happens to you, write it exactly down, answering emails, and add it up. So let's say if at 9 a.m. you started writing emails, and at 9:35 something else happened and you pause for 30 minutes, then make sure you add that something in there, whatever that 30 minutes was. If it was relaxing, walking outside, walking a dog, whatever it is, add that in there. And then when you resume the email, start again and count those hours, minutes, everything you spend on, because that's the only way you get like a real picture of what you actually do daily.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it was crazy when I did this, because I was very disciplined about it, because I really wanted to understand where my time was going. And you have to be disciplined, because it's easy to forget, like, oh, I just spent 2 minutes texting somebody back on this. But I added up all the different, like responding to any employees' questions, or picking up the phone because somebody had more questions. And it ended up being like one whole day. I spent 3 hours just responding to people asking me things. And that was a big alert for me, because that's a lot of time that you could spend doing something else. So it's important for you to be very, very thorough. Otherwise, you're going to have no idea where the time goes. And then you're going to end every day feeling not productive, because what did you get done, right? So just do it on the computer if it's easier for you. Open up a Google Sheets doc, write in every single time the amount of minutes you spent and exactly what you did.
So do you guys see that when you write it down all the times on projects, coaching, even, driving, everything, books, whatever you do, eating, when you add it up all together, you should get the right amount of number for each day, and then you should put it up all together for the month, for the year, and we talk about the lifetime as well. Yeah. But the point is, then when you add up these numbers, because in one day you might be like, just like Parida realized, oh, I spent 3 hours on text messages, which is a lot, right? So then in an 8-hour workday, you only have 5 hours left to do some sort of a work, right? Working on a project, and you haven't counted your any other things that you have done, like emails and so many other things, right? So now when you have a perspective that where you're spending your time, you come to a realization that, oh crap, I should change some things. And then you really realize how much you really work, because it's easy to say I work 10, 15 hours a day, but how much do you really work? Because most people, including Mark Fisher, as he said, he says he's lucky if he gets about 2 hours of real work in a day. And his schedule is really, really put together. So, but the point is, but it's okay though. Nobody's supposed to do all day long in deep work, because you just can't do that. But anyways, on the long run. So breaking down these and adding up, when you have your piece of paper, you should break down everything all the way down and try to see and add up all the times how much you're spending, so at least you know where you are. And to give you a fun fact, we did this. So right now, an average human being right now can live around 90 years. That is 32,850 days. So that broken down, you also should calculate how old are you, and obviously come up with how many days you have lived so far. And in my case, because I'm 30, I have lived 10,950 days so far, and I have 21,900 days left till I'm 90 years old. Now, the fun fact is that I do drink coffee, so for me, picking up my espresso shot and then wash it between each espresso that I have, it takes me about 15 seconds. Well, in your case, if you use sugar and you have a spoon and you move it around and basically you're spooning with your coffee, that's 15 seconds. If you want to add that up, that's 15 seconds becomes the remaining time, so the remaining 21,900 days that I have left, it actually becomes 92 hours, which is almost 4 days, just spending time on either washing my espresso cup or basically just moving, doing your coffee, meaning like with a spoon. Yes. So, but the point is, that's 15 seconds. Do you guys see that? So I just found 15 seconds that I could replace with something else a day, and I get back almost 4 days of my life that I could spend on anything else. So, but getting back to it. Now think about, the reason why I'm showing you this, because this is only 15 seconds. Imagine if you can find an hour, like an hour of commuting, going to work and back, or an hour of, you should listen to audiobooks, for example, or podcasts, like this podcast, hopefully you're listening right now. But, or find Netflix. How much time do you spend a week on Netflix? Because 15 seconds, even 7 days, it's not even adding up to a whole hour. It's basically, what is it? A minute and a half. So 15 seconds doesn't even add up to like an hour Netflix that you do daily or weekly. So if you add up all your Netflix in a day or week that you do, and then a year, and then 21,000 times 900 times the days you left if you're 30 years old, you might realize that you are watching Netflix on the couch sitting for months, if not years in your life. So how crazy is that, right?
It's crazy. We all have 168 hours in a week. That includes sleep time, right? So everybody has the same amount of time, and everyone always seems to say, well, I don't have time for this, this, or this. Well, if you actually look at your time and see what you're spending your time on, you probably have more time than you think. You're just not actually designing your life, which is one thing we say a lot at For You Fitness. Like, you need to actually design how you're going to spend your time in every possible way. I put off going to the bank for like 3 or 4 days because I'm only going to go when I'm on my way to our Tampa location, for example, because the bank is right there for me. Or if I'm going to St. Pete, I'm not going to go to the bank that day because it's like 20 minutes out of the way. So literally every single minute will add up to your time and make you even feel better about yourself because you're getting things done. So. And
emails, spend lots of time on it, right?
Oh yeah.
So until I have found basically, well, I was about to hire almost like an assistant, virtual assistant, to able to sort out my emails because I get so many emails a day, right? So I spent about hours on it, and once I ended up, I was like, oh my god, I'm basically getting paid to work in a mailroom. You know, back in the days, they always say that from the mailroom to become CEO. That was like 20 years ago when there was no internet. But now we are actually back to the mailroom, just virtually, because now we are sitting and just replying back to the mails. So same thing. But the way, when I realized this, I was like, oh my god, this is why I'm feeling like stuck. So I looked up SaneBox. We'll probably put it in here. But SaneBox changed my life because it's a virtual assistant, and what it does, it learns what you do with the emails, who you respond back to, who you don't respond back to. So anytime Perida sends you an email, it knows that I don't need to respond, so it just that's good. But anyways, so it sorts everything out. So if it's a newsletter, if it's something that somebody subscribed you to, you can move it into the Sane black hole, it's called, and you will never see it again. You don't have to unsubscribe. And there are so many different options. Sane Letter, Sane CC, if somebody CCs you in, somebody BBC you in, right, as I say, then you BCC, yeah, so you don't even have to see it. So I have different folder. It automatically sorts everything out, and I only see the most important emails, and the sorted out ones I don't have to look at ever again. And the point is, I just want to give you an example. It allowed me to save 9 hours per week. So I got back 9 hours per week just by using this app with this little change. So SaneBox allowed me to literally able to work on something else for 9 hours. That's a lot of time.
It's
right?
a lot of time. We actually spent some of the time at the Unicorn Society going through our inboxes and adopting some of these changes. And actually, Daniel spent some time teaching me more SaneBox. So you can use it as a reminder. It could be your to-do list. It could be your bring it back when it's important to you time. I mean, it has so many different things that it can do for you. So highly recommend it. We'll definitely link it.
The next I would recommend to sign up to Fiverr, fiverr.com, that's 5ER, right? Fiverr. So what it is basically you can sort out so many things. So for example, editing, it could be video editing, audio editing, it could be your blog post, it could be designing website, whatever, you name it.
Creating graphics, anything like that. Yeah.
Anything like it, and it's basically $5 the minimum. They have pros too. So these are like people who are like freelancing, right? But I mean, you pay them, of course, but there's also like a pro service when you hire like a company that is outside, usually from the US. But the point is that so many things that you need to get done and you just don't have time, or because you don't know how to do it, or it would take you hours and hours and hours, and this person will take just a single hour, then you go to Fiverr and you basically pay for it and you get it done. And the reason why I recommend is because when you audit your time, you should also audit your time at how much is your time worth. So how much you're making per hour, and you break it down and in a way that how much time that you have you can use on something else to bring in more value to your company, to bring in more value to you, to able to be worth more instead of spending time on things that doesn't really matter, and you could actually just delegate it out.
Yeah.
So Upwork is another one. For example, you can do almost anything on that. It's just look it up. Fiverr and Upwork is very, very important. And then TaskRabbit, you can even hire an AC guy. You can hire a person to put together your IKEA furniture for like $5 and all these things. So TaskRabbit is also very important. I also like use TaskRabbit to go buy some stuff for my mom, for example, for Halloween, birthday, that kind of stuff. So I don't actually have to do it. And then, but the point is that I'm doing it and nobody knows. Hopefully she doesn't watch this episode, you know. But she doesn't speak English, so it's perfect. But no, the TaskRabbit can be anything for you as well. And then there's so many other ones. And then the books that you must download and you should take a note is Clockwork, Deep Work, and The One Thing. So these are the 3 main books that will actually help you clear out not just your inbox, but your life and everything. And you're gonna be able to get your life back and you can focus on your actual work.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So Perida, can you tell me about what we learned at the event? Because they had something that Mark Fisher was actually very excited called CATS.
CATS.
What is CATS?
CATS is something that Mark Fisher Fitness and the Unicorn Society have created as their very own thing. And I'll tell you what it stands for. Okay, so you have C, obviously. C is capture everything. So what they always say is your brain is used for creating ideas, but not for storing them. And that was kind of like a whoa for me because I didn't really think about it that way, but that's very true. We're not meant to remember everything all the time. That would be crazy. So basically, capture everything, store nothing means get it all out. However you want to do that, whether that's on your computer and you have like one of those post-it notes on your computer, or you have a list, or like Daniel, you have your notebooks. Whatever that is for you, but only have one, by the way, because I used to have like this list and that list, and then I was all over the place just writing things down, and then I never had one in one place. So capture everything, store nothing in your brain so you don't have to like keep it in there because it won't stay. Cool? Step 2, A. I don't know, it's not steps. C-A, okay? Analyze your tasks and prioritize them daily. Okay, now you have a massive to-do list, right? Well, how important is everything on that list? Have you actually identified what's going to move you forward the most? Daniel is always talking about the book, The One Thing, and he always asks me, Parita, what are you doing today that's going to move you forward the most? Everything else on your list doesn't matter nearly as much as that one thing. So now you have your list, right? The C, you're capturing. A, analyze that list so that you can actually identify what's the most important. Cool? T, transfer tasks onto your calendar. So you have your list, you know what's the most important. Now do it. You're going to have to actually put it on your calendar before you can do it. So delegating the right amount of time, it's kind of hard to identify how much time you might need, but at least get it on your schedule. And you have to put actual blocks on your schedule, like, hey, I'm doing this task at this point, no interruptions. I'm not going to check my email. So what did you say? Using the do not disturb mode, very important. That's T. Last but not least, S, seek improvement. They recommend try to be 1% better every single day. I like that. I think that's a great idea. But this is a great way for you to actually GSD, right? Get shit done.
Perfect. So Parita mentioned about notifications. We're going to talk about and do not disturb mode, which is always on my phone. So it's funny because I only have about 5 people that I pick up the phone to when they call, and everybody else is basically it's on do not disturb mode. And these 5 people come through, and I see them when they call. But people also know that when they call me, then it must be an emergency or something very important that we need to talk about. Other than that, I don't pick up the phone unless there's an actual scheduled time. And then you might say, but I can do that. But no, you can't, because now what you're doing is that you're basically whoring yourself out to all these people, anybody who is actually just calling you, instead of it would be on your terms. So you should create your own schedule and don't let people into your schedule. Just like having an appointment with a client, let's say at 9 a.m., you wouldn't cancel because somebody calling you, right? Or if you do, you shouldn't be here anyways. But anyways, so you should not cancel somebody, and if you cancel your own time that you have scheduled on your calendar with you, that's just like canceling a client, but worse, because this is you. So it's really bad, and most people do that. I used to do that, so I just challenge you not to do it. So turn off all the notification, turn off all the, and by the way, I'm sorry, I almost forgot this, but the reason why I'm bringing this up, and we talk about these things, because joining to this group allowed me to reinforce that what you have already done and believe in is actually so important, and it's the right thing to do because all these people are already doing it. I just didn't know because I wasn't part of a group like this where people are already doing what I'm doing, right? So it's always so much better with somebody, in a group rather than just all on your own, because then you're questioning yourself. But Mark Fisher, for example, doing all of those things, and he has the same exact thing with the do not disturb and everything, and able to focus on things and get shit done. So the point is that joining these groups is really, really extremely beneficial, because you learn and confirm so many things that you're already doing right or doing wrong. You're able to see it correctly, and you're going to be able to see it from so many other people and learn from them, just as well.
Yeah, especially when you're on a mission that's more than just you. We're never going to be able to accomplish something big by ourselves. So for us, it was really cool to meet all these other gym owners and talk to them and see where they're at in their business. Because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing. So if you're a part of something where you're all doing it together, you're never going to feel like you're alone, which it can be difficult when you're an entrepreneur, because you can feel really lonely at that point. So yeah. I'm excited to be a part of this society.
So guys, make sure that you do join to find a group. We are actually creating, and this episode is actually brought to you because we are announcing it today, is that we have created the FitBiz Digest, which is FitBiz Digest, just make sure you heard it right. It's what it is every single Monday, it's going to go into your inbox if you subscribe. It's not a junk mail, it's not a newsletter, it's basically a weekly digest that you get Mondays into your inbox. And everybody asked me to do this, by the way, because they wanted to get a summary of what we did, so you can hear it, you can see it, and you can watch it. So there will be video, audio, and written platform in it. But the point of this is it's what you need to do and read on Monday to be able to start your week right. So it's everything that you have asked for. It's very short, very cut to the chase, and it's just basically what you need to do to be able to start the week right and sharpen the saw for the week. And if your competitor is not reading this or every Monday, then you are just that much ahead of it, because it's going to be an insight from the industry. It's going to be just so many things that you need to take action on and need to learn from books, from podcasts, to so many things that are just so important for you. And I'm just so excited to share it to you guys. And that could be a step one for you to jump into, basically to be part of some sort of a group. And FitBiz is going to start their own group too eventually. But right now you can be part of it by the podcast, by the vlog, by the book, and by now the FitBiz Digest. So if you guys want to subscribe, I will probably link it below, and you're gonna be able to subscribe to the list, and you will get the list every single Monday. Okay?
Yes, it's going to be your one-stop shop, and I think that's the biggest thing. There's so much information that's out there, but we're going to organize it for you. So hopefully that'll save you some time too.
Yes, I cannot wait, guys.
Yes.
So I wanted to come back to just real quick. One more thing before we wrap this up is that just make sure if you take at least one thing away from this episode, then try to make it that you audit your time, so at least you come to a realization of how much time you spend and what you're spending it on. And then just organize it a little bit and start to book out a schedule. For example, my schedule looks something like from 4:45 a.m. I usually have my coffee and I read for about an hour, sometimes 2 hours, depending on my day. And then after that, I organize my thoughts, create my schedule. Well, I already created the day before, but I go over it and double check it. And then I work only the first thing in the morning. I work on something that it needs my attention the most. So something crazy important and something that a high level work. And usually after noon, so from noon and after, I have all my meetings, and I do everything else that it doesn't need my brain power as much, like in the morning, that I can do deep work on. And then in the evening, I do, like, let's say the drop-off things and everything, like things that I should completely delegate, like going to the post office or picking up my dry cleaning or whatever it is. At least it's organized and I know which day I'm picking it up, so I don't go multiple times. Combine it with the grocery store, just like Perita, her banking, and all that. So my point is, if you're able to do that and create this organization, you never have to say again that I just don't have time, because you have time. Everybody has the same amount of time. All you have to do is just organize.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you very much. We really appreciate that you guys are watching. And what would be also amazing is if you could share, like, rate our podcast. And then, of course, send us some feedback, because we love to get feedback from you guys. Oh, and I wanted to share also that we have been getting about 1,500 downloads now lately on all of our episodes, which is amazing. So I just want to thank you guys all. And then if you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe to our podcast. Okay, goodbye.
See you next time.